everybody. Welcome to Queer Games Heck Yeah! For, I guess, one of the last times. But let's not be sad. Let's not be sad about the end. Let's be glad that it happened. Um, we're into the home straight. We're into the last leg. We're into the downhill. I always find it quite amusing that about humanity we say it's like, oh, it's all uphill from here, and that means it's bad. And then when you get when you're not going uphill, you're like, oh, I've plateaued. I'm not going anywhere, and that's bad. And then when people go, oh, it's all downhill from here, that's bad too. And I'm like, that's the human condition in my mind. But speaking of going downhill, no. Speaking of going uphill, no. Speaking of plateauing, no, that's wrong as well. Speaking of games, Kaiju Noir is today's game. I know nothing about it. I know that it's a queer game because it's part of the Queer Games Festival and we're taking screenshots, which is why we're doing Queer Games Heck Yeah. But I know nothing about the games other than that, so if you don't like surprise content, look away. But not knowing what we're about to see, I think, is half the fun of this stream. I'm on Twitch. Well, this is happening on Twitch, so if you're in chat, come and chat to me. If you're seeing this on YouTube later on, you can always leave a message. Something I've been meaning to say for a little while. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Something I've been meaning to say for a while. If there's a game that you saw in one of the other videos that you would like me to continue, let me know. I might do requests, maybe. Because one of the biggest flaw with Queer Games Heck Yeah is we only get half an hour of each game. But it would be great to sort of revisit some of the classics. Alright, let's get going. Already the art is pretty cool. Now, Kaiju, I guess I'm going to say, yes, giant monster. So Godzilla and Mothra. I was always more of a Gamera kid, though. Alright, 4. Unknowable creatures that dwell beneath the surface of the world. Yes. New Monstropolis. A city of monsters, figuratively and literally. Oh. Wee giant beasts with dark hearts. Oh, if this game delivers on what this is promising, just like a city of giant monsters, I think we're on a winner. We giant beasts with dark hearts and darker souls trudge the streets in the stone world. It's a great font. Is this the dyslexic font that goes around a bit? Who knows? A decade since the war ended and we, Kaiju, chose to isolate ourselves in this place below the surface instead of coexisting with humans. Their human culture pervades, however, seeping through the cracks and into every element of this underground existence. A life of tainted isolation or oblivion. Oh. Sometimes you have to make the difficult choices. Every night of your life. Kari? Every night another case. Every night another horror story from the city of monsters. Oh, I'm going to go back, because we've got to take screenshots, that's why we're here. That's a great line. I feel like that's kind of like the whole... That's the noir part. That noise is quite loud. Oh no, it's a noise in the real world. They've started the construction that... I don't know if you've been following the feed, but basically I've had a falling out with my landlord and they've asked me to leave politely because they want to do construction work for 2 weeks in my house. And I was like, well, is there some rent relief so I can go hire an office because I cannot work with the noise? And they were like, not only is there not rent relief, but now you have to go. I was like, no, okay. Every night another case. Every night another horror story from the city of monsters. Kari, are you awake? That's what you're here for. Making a living on the fringe of society. Closing the book on the stories that always end badly. I'm just not focused today. I'll get into it. You just got to give me a few minutes to kind of psych myself up. Detective Karabara. Is that one of those giant guinea pigs? You have a client. If that's a guinea pig, then the artist needs some work, but I don't think it is. You startle from your nightly indulgence of self-loathing, the office around you the same as it was 20 minutes ago. Was this the life you expected when you began your career as a private investigator? Does this office make you feel like one of the charismatic PIs from the movies you watch every week? The walls, crumbling stonework, adorned with badly painted posters of those same films. Not squalor, but close. Your assistants, Alex Oris. Yeah, say Alex Oris. Is looking at you in the bemused way he does every time he breaks you out of your daydreaming. What does he see when he looks at you? Oh, a broken down Kaiju who just wants to be left alone, the cynic. One of those silver screen, hard-boiled untouchables. Someone who just wants to make the city a little better. Okay, who are we today? Let's ponder this for a moment. I think we're the anti-hero. We're like the, now look here, dame. I don't like you and you don't like me. But we're tied together in this chair and that's the way it is. That's the vibe we're going for this game, I reckon. Perhaps he always says that the way you see yourself changes your narrative, whatever that means. I always love games. I mean, games have to explain the rules. Like, they literally have to let you know how to play them. And as a dev, I really resent that. I'm like, I don't want to explain how my games are played. You should be able to figure it out. But also at the same time, gee, it goes easier. You can just give people just one or two little clues about what the hell they're playing. Practically part of the same brood. Cracked your eggs together, figuratively at least. You both went your own ways on that journey, but were there through all the weirdness that followed. He always has that grin on his face when he rouses you, still putting up with your nonsense after all this time. Being the sole private eye in a city of monsters isn't exactly the glamorous life. A couple of cramped rooms for an office with the cheapest furniture that could be carved from a block of granite. Alex never complains though. Great graphics. This is like superb, like the central conceit of the game of giant monsters living in a sort of detective city is brilliant, but then also it's been backed up by this fabulous art. What is it? Alex has worked with you since you started the agency, a few years after the gates closed between the worlds, lured by the prospect of reliable pay and lurid intrigue. In the years that followed, you failed to provide either on a regular basis. Oh... Apparently detective work is very similar to indie dev game work. Part assistant, part taskmaster. He keeps the lights on, the tea strong, and your ego in check. Most of the time. You wish you could pay him more, or on time, but the city of monsters rarely calls for the services of a private investigator. And there aren't a lot of folks beating down his door to hire a disabled veteran with more brains than a professor sandwich. Are we open for new cases, or are we going to spend all night napping? What does the sign on the door say? Right now it says, keep your snout out of my business, hecker, but I'm pretty sure I can have that cleaned off by closing. Can't please everyone, can we? At least we got paid for that job. And ended up with a door covered in what I can only assume is crap coloured paint. I mean, if it's a giant monster door, then that's a giant monster amount of paint. Sounds like we're open then. Can I get a tea? We're out of tea, and the petty cash box is empty. We do have a client though. Heck. You dig around in your pockets until you find some coins and hand them across the scarred desk. That's everything I've got. Send in the client and fetch someone to wake me up, please. Alex snatches the cash and walks out into the front room. He comes back a moment later with a nervous individual in tow. You wish you could say the Kaiju Alex gently ushers into the cramped office, fills you with confidence of a lucrative job offer, but they don't. They shuffle into the room, wings held tight against their body. Bit of a Mothra vibe there. A dozen tons of fur and muscle and strained nerves. They were scared. That's fabulous graphics. I'm loving the restricted color palette as well. You know, it's black and white, but with one like hero color. Couldn't blame them though. Folks usually arrive at your door either terrified or furious, depending what they need investigated. They glance around the room, possibly looking to escape, or for some telltale indication that they're in the right place. You don't know what a private investigator's office is supposed to look like, but this probably isn't it. Please, take a seat. They look nervously at the stool as if only just noticing it, and sit down, wings held tight against their body. Thank you. There's a long pause in which you hear Alex quietly slip out the front door. You know, it often helps start conversation if we learn each other's names. I'll start. I'm Carabara, a giant guinea pig. Them or they, if you don't mind. This is my office. It says so on the door. Or it usually does. You can call me Detective. I'm Maxora, Detective. Miss. But you've got to pronounce it Maxora! Maxora! She's well spoken for... Oh my god. That drilling is insane. She's well spoken for a Kaiju. Kaiju? Oh dear. And wears enough gold to indicate a magpie-like tendency for the nicer things. That's a good start, Miss Maxora. Maxora! Now how can I be of assistance? Another long pause as she fidgets with her rings. No doubt you'd like to discuss a matter of some delicacy, otherwise you wouldn't be in my office. She looks up and you see the fractured ice of her eyes, cold, beautiful, and afraid. I need your help, Detective. The words every private investigator loves to hear, the phrase, somehow, never growing old. I gathered that from the fact you're sitting here in front of me. How can I be of assistance? I'm not usually the first point of call for a Kaiju in trouble. There's a police station just down the road. She looks down again, her claws clicking against each other as she rolls her rings nervously. Someone has some information about me that they shouldn't. Things I can't get out to my family. I can't have get out to my family. That's why I can't go to the police. Blackmail? She nods. And you can't just pay them off? Not without asking my family for a lot of money, Detective, and they would want to know what it was for. You nod back. Common enough story. One you've heard a dozen times before. No doubt an encounter with the wrong monster. She doesn't want getting out. And can you tell me what they have on you? Something bad enough to get you in trouble with the family? With the police? She shakes her head vigorously, tears welling up in her eyes. I can't tell you that, Detective. I've done things that I'm ashamed of. You've pre-ordered a game, didn't you? You pre-ordered a mainstream AAA title, and it was terrible. Well, you're getting no sympathy from me, Maxora. Never pre-order. You watched every episode of Love at First Sight. Well, you're getting no sympathy from me. You spent too much money on a fancy candle that you only used once. Well, Maxora, get out of my office. And the less you know, the less danger you're in. You raise an eyebrow, an unusual addendum. The less I know, the harder it is for me to do my job, Miss Maxora. Miss Maxora! But I will respect your privacy. No extra charge. Oh, that's a good line. I like that line. You scribble on your second last business card and slide it across the table. Nobody's ever gotten down to the second last business card. Everybody who's ever gotten business cards still has half a box of them sitting somewhere. This is my retainer. I charge by the day, not the case. First day in advance. There may be expenses, especially since I'm going in without a lot of information. She picks up the card, glances at it, and nods without hesitation. I can tell you where the message is said to go and who to talk to. Is that enough to start you off? From the front room you hear Alex return, his cane clicking against the stonework. That's a good start. Can you show me the message? Might give me something more to go on. He's not giving me, like, detective voice. He's just giving me regular voice. Like, I wish we were kind of leaning a bit more into that sort of 1940s kind of, like, detective cadence. No, sorry, I don't have it with me. Fine, you can leave details with my assistant out front, as well as the retainer. Anything you can tell me about them, about what they want? She stands, shaking her head and reaching for her bag. The blackmail demand only included a name and a place, so that I could find them when I was ready to pay. She leans across the desk, the light glinting on her jewelry and the cold blue of her eyes. I would like this to be handled quietly, Detective. It would mean a lot to me personally if you could just make this all go away. She's a bit of a femme fatale. There's obviously more she isn't telling you, but you aren't being paid to pry into her reasons. Yeah, see, so that could have been a line about, like, you know, you're not paying me to ask questions sort of thing. I'll do my best, Miss Maxora, but I'm not a bodyguard or a hired thug. If you want someone disappeared, I'd recommend the police station down the road. Their rates are far more reasonable. I'm sure you'll do just fine, Detective. And please, call me Max. You were doomed from the start. Oh. Chapter 1. Alex walks back into the room a few minutes later, mug in one hand and a slip of paper tucked behind an ear frill. Well, she was quite the character. Did she pay? He puts the cup neatly on the desk. I mean, if these are Godzilla-sized monsters, that cup is about the size of a small apartment block. The liquid inside is black as a lagoon at midnight and smells like molasses. I think molasses it's like a golden syrup or like a... I don't know. I hear about it, but I've never seen it. In cash. Nice, crisp new bills all tucked up neatly in the cash box. By the bulge in her purse, there's plenty more in there. Can I get a new chair and claim it as a business expense? Mine is falling apart. Tempting. I wouldn't mind a new hat. Somehow keep shredding them. You have horns, Carrie. You aren't supposed to be wearing hats. I know, but when was the last time you saw a detective movie without the PI wearing a hat? Good point, but I get my chair first. Deal. If we can get a few days out of this case, I'll not only get you a new chair, but pay you for the last 2 weeks. Alex shrugs and pulls the paper from his fin, placing it on the desktop. Do what you can, Carrie. We're in this together. Aww. I like how Alex is wearing a tie. It's made out of a ship's sail. You deserve to get paid. I get my pension, not entirely helpless without you. I've seen how much they care about vets. Wouldn't trust a hatchling to survive on that pension. And yet I scrape by just fine. Anyway, here's the details on the messenger and the hangout. The former is unknown to me, though the police might have something. The latter is a dive off the main strip. Been there a few times. How are the drinks? Cheap and not entirely lethal. You pick up the slip of paper and scan Alex's meticulous lettering. Lorithrak, The Last Gulp, Crag Lane. There's a touch of Lovecraftian to this too, I reckon, which I'm loving. She really is playing this one close to the scales. I couldn't get anything out of her, not even a description. What the hell have you gotten us into? A case, which is more than we had this morning, or yesterday, or last week. That's good. Alex leans against the doorway and taps his cane uncertainly. Just don't go wasting all the money on the movies and hats. You try not to laugh as you drink your tea. So what's the plan? Go scope out the place? Check with the cops? I know Carla Zora down at the station owes us a favour after the last time. Check with Carla Zora... no, let's go to Last Gulp. What are we waiting for? I'd rather not deal with the cops any more than I have to. They gave me a license to do this. It doesn't mean they like me doing it. Corrupt heckholes. Can't believe they made you pay to do their job for them. Someone has to pay for all those donuts. Oof. You mean the bribes, protection money, and selling stolen evidence aren't enough? How many donuts does one kaiju need? Don't ask me. I'm still on the fence about Carla Zora sometimes, but she chose her job. She has to live with it. Anyway, I'm going to head up to the Gulp and poke around till either Lorithrak shows up or I get bored enough to call it a night. Either way, you get to drink bad drinks and send the bill to Miss Maxora. Miss Maxora! Win-win, right? Alex chuckles and walks back to the front room. You might think differently after you try their drinks. I'm picturing molten rock. I'm picturing sulfur. I'm picturing some sort of blue energy drink. Crag Lane feels old, even in the city of monsters, a near-forgotten side street worn low from thousands of years of heavy footsteps. The Last Gulp is about what you'd expect from an ancient dive bar in this part of town. Rough stone brick, uneven windows, piles of rubble along the walls, the smell of industrial waste and kaiju vomit. Oof. You don't like going into bars in the first place. Too many kaiju vying for space, too many noise, too few answers. This is one of those times where I'm like, if I'm mispronouncing that word, it's in the game a lot. But oh well. No, actually, no, not oh well. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So we're going to look up how to pronounce this word. I only ever see it written down. Kaiju, maybe?
Kaiju.
Kaiju. Okay. We can do it. We can do this. The smell of the place alone is almost enough to turn you away. As you approach the door, a bulging shape in the corner stands and extends an antlered head. Evening. You touch your forehorns in acknowledgement. They grunt back a sound more heavy machinery than communication. What an awesome monster. Busy night? They shrug their shoulders and push open the door with their tail, leaving behind a... Gee, it was a late night. Leaving behind a black trail of ink. Not much of a talker, are you? Their eyes narrow and gesture to the door with their antlers. You get the point and ease past into the bar. That was the main villain of the whole thing. That was like the, what do you call it? The mastermind. Just pretending to be the barman, so he could size us up. Brilliant. What a twist. The interior of the bar is as crude as the exterior, showing its age as one of the city's oldest drink pits. Not despised, just mostly forgotten to the ages. Those are the best bars. The bar and tables are all stone slabs, probably hewn from the same quarry as the bricks that make up the rest of the building. It's easy to believe this bar wasn't built, but dug out of the surrounding stone. That'd be so cool. I've got to say, the world building in this game is excellent. Like, I'm there, you know what I mean? I might turn the music down just a tad. Alright, there we go. The bartenders watch you enter with one head and the television mounted above the bar with the other. A small crowd of kaiju sit around various tables on one size doesn't fit anyone's stools. A couple of them look up from their drinks, but most just keep drinking like this might be their last gulp after all. Trying to look like another worn-out monster after a hard night, you make your way to the bar. What'll it be, Slick? That's cool. I'm getting also a little bit of Pacific Rim out of this game. Like it's a good mix of all the sort of giant monster, media. You look around the limited drink selection. Alex was right. Everything that doesn't look like it was brewed in a refinery is cheap rot gut you could use to remove rust. Makes you glad you don't drink booze. Best to stick with a soda. Oh. Well, I don't know what either of these are, so... I'll go Monster Mash. Haha, cute. The purple can the bartender slides across to you is festooned with pictures of various movie monsters. You can't help but sing part of the advertising jingle under your breath. They drink the mash. They drink the monster mash. It even smells purple. How does it smell purple? Oh, it looks great. You slide a couple of coins across the bar and sit on a stool. The bartender pushes back less change than you expect, but you don't comment. You a cop? You've broken from your quiet observations of the bar area, trying to figure out who could be the blackmailer just by appearance. In the movies, they would be hunched in a corner, hat over the eyes, looking shifty. But you're the only one wearing a hat, and everyone here is hunched. What? Most folks come here to drink and don't give a damn about anyone else. You're scoping out the place. If you're a cop, tell me now, so I know who to call if you end up in the alley out back. But if you're thinking of robbing the place, I'll just tear you apart here and now, no hard feelings. That happen often? The bartender shrugs, the one head not moving from the screen. Not that you'd hear. Kaiju here mostly keep to themselves, so cop or not? Definitely not. You place your private investigator badge on the bar so only the bartender can see it. I guess you'd say I'm freelance. The bartender looks affronted, both heads swiveling around to look you up and down with matching scowls. An iron claw? Then you really won't be popular around here. Folks don't like nosy flat pads sticking their muzzle where it don't belong. You don't have to worry about me. I'm only here to find someone. I'm not about to cuff or stomp any of your regulars. Just don't cause trouble in here, got it? Stainra out the front does a good job at dealing with trouble. But I hate having to replace the furniture and clean the mess off the walls when you're done, so watch yourself. No trouble here, just doing my job as quietly as I can. No stomping intended. The bartender nods and turns back to their show. What you watching? Dunno, it's either one of those old human monster movies or a war documentary. Acting is terrible either way. Who's winning? The head not watching the monitor spits into the sink. Us, so it's probably just a movie. Their tone tells you everything you need to know. After working with Alex for years, it's become easier to spot those who came back from the war. You were there? They nod ahead. Right near the end, lied about my brood year, went out, barely came back. Did what I had to get a job here, been working here ever since. Not the worst place to end up. They don't reply. You slowly work through your drink, getting a feel for the place. It's not as bad as you thought once you block out the smell. The name's Rax, by the way, so who are you looking for? The bartender is still watching the movie, which is now showing a giant kaiju wrecking a power plant that crumples like cheap wood, which it probably is. Someone named Lorathrak. Know him? Again, the non-committal shrug. Maybe. Most folks don't deal in names here, not real ones at least. You sigh and start reaching for your wallet, knowing where this is going. Anything I can do to help you remember? Depends. You any good? At what? Answering vague questions? I'm heckin' great at it. Try me. Ask another. One head laughs and the other growls. Wise ass. I'd watch that muzzle around here if you like your teeth. I mean, you any good as a detective, and you know it. You give a variation of a non-committal shrug. I've ended a few marriages, and I've found my share of lost pets. Need something looked into? They pierce the top of another can with the pincer, and hand it to you. I got something for you. Not now, though. You got a card or something? I hand over your last business card. They glance at it skeptically. Oh, you're the one Alex works for. You know Alex? Long story, don't ask. He comes in sometimes for a drink. They pocket the card in their apron and nod to a table off at the back of the bar. Law is over there, you can't miss him. The indicated table holds a single occupant. Squat, spiky, and drinking like they've prepared to go on drinking forever. One of my best and worst customers. Drinks all night, never tips, never says thanks. Some heckin' gratitude wouldn't go amiss. Ever spit in his drink? Both mouths grin widely. Every heckin' night. Tried to stiff me on the tab one night. Don't try to screw with a two-head. We won't forget and can spit twice as hard. Ugh. You pick up your drink and stand up from the bar. Remind me to never piss you off. Anyway, look me up when you've got time. I'll help you out if I can. They nod, go back to watching the end of the movie, and you head towards the occupied table at the back. As you approach the back table, you catch the stink coming from Lorathrak. Dank, musty, alcohol-ridden. The stench of a loner you're all too familiar with. The table before them is littered with empty cups, the bartender obviously not wanting to get any closer than they have to. Lorathrak? They look up, peering up at you over the top of their drink, eyes trying to focus in the poor light. Oh, wow. I mean, the art in this game is pretty special. What's it to you? Whatever you're selling, I don't want any. Just someone looking to have a chat. You look like you'd use some company. Ugh. Law looks you up and down, and with a sneer before gazing back down at the drink. I don't want nothing except to be left alone. You pull out the stool opposite and sit down. Well, that's too bad, Law, because I'd like to talk. Of course you heckin' do. You a cop? Everyone seems to be asking me that today. Maybe it's the hat. No, I'm not a cop. Just someone in need of a few answers. Law snarls, finishes their drink, slams the cup back down on the table, and waves to the bartender. What kind of questions? The kind they have to do with Maxora. Who? Never heard of him. Never? You got smoke in your ears? I don't know him. Funny, she knows you. Says you're saying she owes you some money. The bartender arrives, putting down a fresh cup of something that smells exceedingly flammable. You lean back a little. Law picks up the cup, downs half of it in one swig, puts it back down. You wonder if it had a little something extra in it. On the shorter side, curvy, wings, little horn on top. That's her. Calls herself Maxora now, does she? What else did she tell you? She said you were blackmailing her, said she wants you to leave her alone. Did she show you a blackmail note, or have any proof that I was doing it, or what I was supposed to be blackmailing her about? No, she didn't, but you took the case anyway because she looked scared and you had the money. Great little predator mouth there. Law grins, a filthy broken-toothed grin. Thought so. She wanted you to come down here and make some trouble for me so I'd leave her alone, right? Or maybe she wanted you to sort me out good and proper in the alleyway, all quiet-like. Something like that. They nod and slug back the rest of the drink. Thought so. You are here as her hired muscle. No, private detective. Even worse then. Listen, flatpad, and listen good. That dame ain't getting blackmailed. Whatever she's mixed up in, I ain't the one causing her grief. Why has she sent me after you then? Now you're asking the right questions. When I was working with her, she was going by Caesarius. Law taps the empty cup with a claw. You get the hint and signal to the bartender. Doesn't that seem like something you should be asking her about? She's your client, after all. Go home, detective. Or go talk to Caesarius, Maxora, whatever she's calling herself now. Just leave me to do my drinking. He looks down at the stained tabletop, its surface puddled with rainbow slick residue. And a word of advice, detective. Watch yourself around her. She may look sweet, but those claws are sharp. Getting up from the table, you nod to Rax and make your way out into the Evernight. Stainra eyes you uncaringly as you emerge from the bar. You tip your hat as much as the horns allow and move into the street. So, Detective Carabara. Maybe I'm thinking of capybaras. I think they're capybaras, the giant guinea pigs. Your first night on the case, and you found out what? Let me see. You can't trust any of them. Maxora has told you little to nothing about this case, despite eagerly retaining your services. Lorathrak hasn't told you anything except Maxora is hiding something, obviously not wanting to give anything away. All you know is that there's more going on here than a simple blackmail, and you're still on the case. Good thing you're being paid by the day. You can feel your bed calling to you. Best to call it a night. Alright, well, maybe that's a good time to save it. Yes, I mean, what a pity. We only got one chapter in. So I suspect it's a... How do I... There we go, yes. Content, oh, I see, that's cool. Testing team. Renpai, yes, awesome. Oh, well, that was Kaiju Noir. What a really fascinating concept. Great graphics. I do wish that the detective was a little bit more noirish. Like, I feel like we've leaned into that look. It's sort of black and white, 1940s, 1950s world. I guess I would love to have that kind of like detective voice rattling around in the back of my head a bit. You're going to answer my question, see? I don't want to be difficult for you. But other than that, I mean, the standout is definitely the art, I think, and the concept. Alright, that went really fast. That was the whole half hour. But I really feel like we could easily have done another half hour on that. Definitely a candidate to come back to. But I'm not going to linger. I'm going to let you all go. Thanks for joining me, and talk to you soon.